The following program is presented by the HTM Podcast Network.
Welcome to another episode of Turnbuckle Talk, powered by thegorillaposition.com and a proud part of the Roar Network, presented by the Hitting the Marks Podcast Network, also now in association with IndiePW.com. We are sponsored by collarandelbowbrand.com, where you can get 10% off when using promo code JKPodcast at the checkout. Also now in partnership with HypeCityVapors.com, where you can get 15% off all your e-juice for your vape by using promo code JKPodcast. We can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter by searching at TB Talk Pod. To listen to our podcast, you can find us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, CastBox, all those other podcatchers out there, Spotify, and of course now on StreamYard. As always, I'm Big Joe.
And I'm Karl Karufel.
Yes, Karl, another week has come and gone in the world of professional wrestling, and I guess again, just to kind of kick off the recording here, welcome to Turnbuckle Talk, back doing video. This has been a long time since we've been on this kind of format here, Karl. This is interesting. We're getting back into video.
Yeah, we are. For those of you that don't know or haven't followed us, we were doing different things at one time as well. We had done a tech talk and we did a paranormal talk as well. The last time we did video was when we did paranormal talk with our 13th episode, which I don't know if it's because of what we were talking about.
Could have been, but
it did not turn out very well at all. Now, I do understand that my video is a little bit laggy. My webcam that I have is probably about 13 to 15 years old. So yeah, it's pretty ancient, but there is a new one on its way. So definitely it will be better. It definitely will. Big Joe, though, he does have an amazing setup going on there with his Mac that he has. So he's got a good webcam on there. So yeah, this is going to be super good. This is probably a new avenue that we're going to continue to do, and hopefully things go well. So thank you everybody for tuning in. This is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for the longest time we kind of held off on doing video because on our previous platform, and we were doing a lot of extra work, video, and kind of reproducing the heck out of it, a bunch of overlays, to a relatively small audience at the time. But the time has come again here, Karl, to bring you some video with Turnbuckle Talk here, and you get to see our faces while our gums are flapping, which I think is going to be a fun thing here. So.
Yeah, I think so as well.
All right, man. Well, let's get to the first topic here for this week. We're talking AEW Double or Nothing. Now, before we kind of get into the breaking down the whole show here, is this kind of their marquee event, or is it All Out? Because I think it's something that's kind of up for debate amongst fans here.
Yeah, it definitely is up for debate. I think after what we have seen from Double or Nothing 2020, I do believe that this is going to be their marquee event.
Okay.
You take a look at WWE's product of WrestleMania that they did, and then you take a look at AEW Double or Nothing that just happened. There's a little bit of correlation between the two, you could almost say. So yeah, I would say that at this point right now, Double or Nothing is AEW's marquee event of the year.
Interesting, because I think you can make the strong argument for All Out, because this whole thing started at All In Chicago, and that's kind of what All Out has kind of morphed into off of that. So I think potentially, you could have two kind of marquee events there, but Double or Nothing is definitely one of them, and I think All Out is either an equal or might even kind of surpass a little bit. Will it kind of be a WrestleMania kind of level type thing, time will tell. This is still very, very new, and that's kind of be a theme kind of going through this episode, especially when we start getting into our Showstopper segment this week. But let's start off with the pre-show match here. They kicked off with a bit of a fun one here. We had the Best Friends, which of course is Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, versus the Private Party, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn. Of course, we always have Orange Cassidy around for the Best Friends. And it was a fun tag team match to kind of kick things off there.
It was a good way to do it. I mean, both of these teams really, they put on a good show. They make people happy. They do fun little things. So by doing something good and something fun like this, it was the perfect way for them to kick off the show.
Yeah, it was actually, this is to determine the new number one contender for the tag team championship. So yeah, the Best Friends are going to get a future tag team title matchup, and it went just over 50 minutes too, which I think is a good time frame for a pre-show match. They just had the one, and then filled the rest of the time with some vignettes and some other promotional stuff and whatnot. So they did a decent job, as they usually do on the pre-show, or what they call it the buy-in. Is how they word their pre-show, which I think is a cool way to do it. To kick off the main card here, we had where they were calling it the Casino Ladder match for a future AEW World Championship title opportunity. We had Darby Allin, Colt Cabana, Orange Cassidy, Joey Janela filling in for an injured Phoenix, Scorpio Sky, Kip Sabian, Jimmy Havoc, who had Penelope Ford with him, of course, as always, Frankie Kazarian, and Luchasaurus. And at the very, very last person to come in was a debuting Cage. That was kind of a surprise. Brian Cage coming in last, and he had Taz with him too, which was interesting as well.
That's right. I was just going to say, it wasn't Christian Cage. It was Brian Cage.
Yes.
That guy is a monster. I'm very happy to see him working with AEW, and very interested to see kind of who they put him into any type of a program with at this point. All really good names on that card. I mean, everybody knows my thoughts on Orange Cassidy, but we'll leave it at that. But I mean, the rest of the names all really good. All the top mid card talent, right there, which was really cool. So,
which is usually the approach to kind of these large number these ladder match type things. It's usually somebody from that mid card level to get a bit of a boost or to get a bit of a push. That's usually the goal with these matches. And I will say with this one, with this being the kickoff for the main card, this has become a little typical of AEW's pay-per-view or their larger events, is that they tend to do a little too much on their first match. Typically, again, this is the old school wrestling fan coming out in me, that you start and then you build to a climax at the end of your event. They tend to sometimes go a little too much at the beginning, and then some of the matches can kind of be a bit of a downer afterwards, because it's like when you do too much, it's like, well, where do you go from there, right? So they're definitely a little bit guilty on this. And one person in specific, the debuting Brian Cage, we've had him on the podcast before, a great guy. Moves like 100 miles per second. He's he's always moving. And one thing I will say, and this is actually coming from our friend Mr. Ryan K. Bowman. When we're watching these events, especially myself, we're on Facebook quite a bit, and you get into a lot of live conversations and whatnot. And Ryan made a very good point, and I kind of second his opinion on this, that with Cage, he needs to kind of trim down a little bit. He needs to get a little bit leaner, and he needs to slow down. You don't need to, be doing flips and all this kind of stuff. As a bigger guy, do that kind of stuff sparingly, not all the time. And I understand that he likes kind of that high octane style, but we've seen it results in a lot of injuries for him. He gets hurt a lot, so he needs to slow it down a little bit so he can have a bit of a longer career, frankly.
I think I would definitely agree with that. So there's times where that flip and high fly stuff from a big guy is definitely warranted, but all the time, not so much. The guy, he's big enough that he doesn't have to really do any of that. You can essentially run roughshod over everybody that's there, and it wouldn't make a difference if he's doing backflips or not. So yeah, I with that I agree.
Yeah, use it kind of sparingly. Before we do our next match here, if we do have anybody that is watching live, feel free to ask any questions, and we can always address them as well, because it does come up in our video here. Next up, we had MJF versus Jungle Boy, just a straight up kind of singles match. This is one of the better matchups of the evening. I enjoyed this one.
Was a very good match, and great build up to this. Everything that they've done over the last few weeks to build up to this matchup between MJF and Jungle Boy was just fantastic. And they used Luchasaurus in this program. They've used Marco Stunt in this program. They've used everybody collectively. So I mean, Wardlow was on MJF's side of things, and it was just fantastic. I think that this was storytelling done properly.
I will say with this too, there was. I know it's not just in AEW. This has become a fairly popular spot to do in matches, and it always scares the hell out of me. I don't know if you get what I'm referring to. They did this kind of like DDT spike kind of move on the basically on the apron, going to the outside. That is a damn. There's such a fine margin for error there. And going back briefly on the previous match too, there was a spot with Darby Allin and Brian Cage, where Cage basically lifted Darby up on a ladder and just chucked him to the outside and onto another ladder. Like some of these spots, like I know Darby is he's a glutton for punishment, and he likes to, he has a high pain threshold and what have it. But damn, like guys, tone it down a little bit. I understand that you're eager to please, but especially so early in the card, like you gotta kind of know your place. And this is kind of a big critique of AEW currently, is that they tend to kind of go too much at the beginning, and everything else kind of feels like it's kind of coasting, or then we go on the downslope afterwards. So, but needless to say, still a great match. I mean, to watch MJF. Even just the character work, he's a great worker in the ring as well, but the character work is always fantastic as a heel. And then Jungle Boy, I mean, for a small guy, I mean, he's impressive. And the type of guy that can really kind of excel in this promotion, because as we know over in the WWE, somebody like him wouldn't really stand a chance, because Vince would not get behind somebody like that. So it's good to see somebody of his stature actually get some notoriety there. So it's good for him.
That's right. Jungle Boy Jack Perry, the son of Luke Perry. I mean, just an amazing kid. I mean, he's phenomenal in that ring. It's just fantastic to see. I think to go along with your assumptions there of doing things way too quickly and way too much at the beginning of the show. You got to remember who they're having at the beginning of the show. It's these mid-card talents that are trying to make a name for themselves. So they're trying to impress not only the AEW management, but Tony Khan himself as well, so that Tony kind of goes, hey, I like that kid. Like we really need to do something here. And then kind of have things going from there. And I think that that's kind of what we're running into right now is situations where they're trying to really put everything out there to get noticed and make a name for themselves.
Well, this brings up a bit of a bigger topic that I think we've actually hinted at before, but we'll kind of address it again here. And this is we're having you on here, Karl. It helps a lot with you being an in-ring competitor before. Are the days of where there'd be a wrestling show going on to where guys wouldn't repeat stuff during matches? It's like, okay, the guys would be like, okay, we're going to do this spot. And then say if somebody else early on was going to do something similar, they're like, okay, we won't do that. We'll do something different. So you're not stepping over each other's toes or repeating things. Are those days kind of passe, or are they kind of gone now? Because I mean, that was always a time-honored tradition in professional wrestling, is that you didn't repeat somebody else's thing.
That's right. You didn't. But I mean, nowadays it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, how many times within a program or within a pay-per-view or within a show do we see super kicks happening? Right? Yeah. They're always happening. How many times do we see, tope suicina, as
God.
they like to call it nowadays. It's just continuously tope suicina.
Wait,
I mean,
what?
how many times do we see that done during a broadcast? So, I mean, yeah, the days of, hey, we got this spot that we're doing, and the respect of, okay, you guys take that spot seems to not even be there anymore. When I was actually working in the ring before I retired out of in-ring competition, that was a big thing. I mean, you kind of like listened in to what the other guys were doing, and then if you had a big spot that you wanted to do, you went to them and you said, hey, listen, you went to the ones, you know, like 2 matches before, a match before, and then if you were like in the middle, then you like 2 on either side, right? If it happened at the very beginning and you're like the 5th match in, it was kind of okay, right? But yeah, I mean, if you like have, you know, 2 matches ago, this big spot happened, and then the last match, this big spot happened, and then this match, like, yeah, that didn't happen, but it seems to now.
I got a little bit of a chuckle there because you were, I believe the term you were looking for was tope suicida. You were saying tope suicina, which I'm assuming is the John Cena version of that move.
That's exactly what it is.
There you go, John. There's a new term we could use it on if he comes back. The tope suicina. That was pretty good. That was I'm lucky I caught on to that. So next up we had Chris Statlander versus Penelope Ford, who was actually filling in for I believe it was Britt Baker, who was injured. This ended up being a pretty decent match. Penelope Ford is somebody that it's tough with her because, I mean, obviously, you know, being, you know, your kind of stereotypical heterosexual male wrestling fan, and obviously she's nice to look at, but ring work wise, she still has a little ways to go. She's pretty good. She's getting there, and somebody like Chris Statlander, sorry, can kind of help her to kind of build her up, because I think she's done quite a bit of kind of like valet work, but it's nice to see her kind of get in the ring and actually get to work a little bit. And she's got some potential, but she's got a long ways to go.
I don't know. I don't know if she really has a long way to go. I think she's doing very well for herself. I mean, I think honestly you're just being way overcritical, to be honest.
Well, I mean, it's when I watch it, I mean, you can kind of, again, you know, I'm somebody who really likes to kind of break things down, kind of find like minutely, right? So that's just kind of the way I am when it comes to professional wrestling. And you can tell, I mean, she's still getting some experience, and I don't mean it to really in a negative way. I mean, she's getting better, and getting to work with somebody that's been around for a while, like Chris, you know, only benefits her. So it's I'm not trying to necessarily portray it as a negative. I mean, she's getting to work in there instead of just being kind of the eye candy, which you know, typically somebody that looks like her only kind of gets to do. So it's nice to actually see her get in the ring. Is kind of more what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you a pass on that for now.
So next up here we had, this was an interesting one. It was Sean Spears versus Dustin Rhodes, which I guess apparently Dustin's been away for a little while, and Sean basically went in there and was basically saying, okay, you know, Dustin's not here, start counting him out. And then Dustin came out and basically handed his ass to him, literally and figuratively. You know, we saw some interesting stuff here. It was kind of a version of a surprise squash match. I mean, might be kind of the best way to kind of describe it.
Yeah, surprise squash match or just old school clinic. Like Dustin Rhodes is always going to be one of the tops in my books for just what he's done in professional wrestling.
Yep.
Not only for himself and his characters, but also for other people as well. And even though Sean Spears was defeated and beat down like a government mule in this matchup, it's only elevated Sean Spears. Just to be in that actual match with Dustin Rhodes, that's only elevated him at this point.
And Sean basically got stripped down to his underwear, and then right at the crotch level, there was a face of Tully Blanchard on his basically his underwear right at the crotch level. I thought that was a little kind of odd, and that needs to be explained, I think.
What do you mean it needs to be explained?
One
of the greatest. Don't you still have your Batman underwear? Don't you still wear your Batman underwear?
know.
It's the exact same thing.
I don't have his face on my crotch, though.
His face, his logo, what's the difference?
It's interesting. I'm hoping that they'll find some kind of way to explain that comedically, even if they need to. It's a kind of a strange thing there. Next up, we had for the AEW Women's World Championship here, it was a no disqualification and no count out match. That's a stipulation I don't think I've ever heard of before. We had Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida. And this was, it was okay for a women's championship match. It was good. I'm definitely a fan of Hikaru Shida, and I'm glad that that things turned out the way that they did. I'll just kind of put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the way that it went, that it happened. For the most part, I mean, we're looking, again, Hikaru Shida, right? Like, tiny little girl that's the disbelief really needs to be kind of stretched on this to really make it understandable, but I don't know.
Some of the moves, like some of the suplexes and whatnot, you have to suspend a lot of disbelief there. Given the size difference. I mean, she is not like super small. She's not Riho small. She's a little bit bigger, but yeah, it was good to see somebody that that's worked hard and is kind of to get to that level to kind of she actually ended up winning the title there. So I think it was good to see, but it is a little odd when you kind of see a smaller wrestler kind of overtake a larger one like that. I mean, it was pretty even too, which I think is a little odd for it to play out, because I mean, typically a larger competitor would kind of like dominate, and if you're going to have a smaller person win, you would basically have them kind of be like a surprise winner. They kind of get like a one up on them or something, but it was pretty 50-50 the way it kind of went. They both got, I'd say, pretty equal amount of offense in there.
Yeah, definitely they did. I mean, no denying that, like the match itself was, I mean, a good, like B-rated match. It wasn't terrible, but I'm just finding it really hard to suspend the disbelief when it comes to the women's division right now in AEW and who they continue to put on top. I'm finding it really hard.
Yeah, it's a division that definitely needs some help, and I definitely want to see more of people like Chris Statlander and like that to kind of get some notoriety and to stop so much of this really, really big versus really, really small type thing. Like, it almost feels kind of cartoony sometimes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know that's probably a little bit of Kenny Omega there, because as far as I know, he does book a lot of the women's division, so it makes sense. Kenny's a big comic book and video game fan, so we're going to see a little bit of this kind of supernatural kind of stuff where you have 100-pound people suplexing 300-pound people, right? So it does make it a little tough to believe in, especially modern day. Next up, we had Jon Moxley versus Brody Lee, and this was a pretty good match. It went a tad longer than I kind of would have liked, but it was a no DQ and also another. No, it wasn't a no DQ. It was a singles match, although they kind of went all over the place, which was a little odd.
Yep.
This brings up a kind of question here, Karl. AEW tends to do this a little bit to where they have these singles matches where there should be the count happening, but it seems like it's at the referee's discretion sometimes. And is this maybe just like this Bryce Remsburg? Is that kind of his thing? Because I
don't think it's just his thing. I think that honestly that is it's just an AEW thing. Yeah. I mean, they're trying to make it a little bit more quote unquote real. Mm-hmm. So suspend that a little bit and just allow that, they kind of go out there. And I mean, even when they're in the corner, right. Or going for a rope break or anything like that, like it's 10 count, not the 5 count. Right. So they give them a little bit more time so I think it's just an AEW thing. Yeah. That's all.
I will say that it seems like, and I'm talking Bryce Remsburg, the referee, it seems like he's getting a little bit better at not being this kind of over-the-top, flailing all over the place and not reacting in herky-jerky stuff. It seems like he's kind of toned down a little bit on that, which is good to see. Or, I mean, I'm not picking up on it as much.
I think the cameras just aren't picking up on it as much anymore.
So maybe that's the case. Maybe they're trying to avoid putting the camera on as much. Maybe he's still doing it. I'm not noticing it.
Unfortunately, it seems as though Ref Aubrey has really taken onto that as well, which is a real piss off because I hate that. You're not you're not there to be the entertainment. When a body slam happens, you don't need to jump absolutely every time. When somebody gets chopped, you don't need to sit there and make a face like you're all hurt and grab your chest. You don't have to do that. You're not the one being hit. You're not the one that has been involved in that situation. You do not react. Referee, that's all you got to do.
And especially the way that Bryce does his like when he counts for the pinfall, like he gets a lot of height and he gets a lot of air when he does it, and it's like, dude, it's performance art. And I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it just gets, again, as somebody who's somewhat of a traditionalist, that kind of stuff drives me crazy. Like, it drives me Jim Cornette crazy sometimes. Some of the stuff where I see it, it's like, dude, it's like you're trying to steal the spotlight. If you want to be a wrestler, just go get trained and get in the ring. Right? That's right. Because you're stealing the spotlight, frankly, at some of these points. So, yeah, I mean, great back and forth. I mean, these guys have, we're talking Moxley and Brody Lee. I mean, these guys go way back to like CZW days before their time in AEW as Luke Harper and Dean Ambrose. I mean, these guys have worked with each other a lot, and it showed in this match. They work really well together.
They really did. And what was nice about this is that everything just kind of really seemed to flow. Everything was just really good. They worked phenomenally together. And the way that this ended as well, I love that really they didn't necessarily bury Brody Lee. Mm-hmm. Yes, he lost. Yeah. Jon Moxley is still the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, has his belt back after Brody Lee technically stole it, which that I loved. That has not been something that has happened in a long time, and I loved that. But like it ended with a stoppage. Essentially, Brody Lee just passed out, and it ended in a stoppage, and I was totally okay with that.
Yep. It saves him from getting buried, like you had mentioned there at the beginning. If it would just been a clean pin, then I think that then that kind of buries what they were trying to build up with him. So I think having him essentially just pass out, like he didn't tap out, he didn't get pinned, that saves that, and then you can proceed more storyline wise and whatnot with it. So that was a great move and a good way to kind of end the match. Next up here we had the. I guess you can call it the main event. I guess you kind of had to do this for the last match, just given what it was here, Karl. We have the Stadium Stampede match.
We're missing a match.
Are we?
Yes.
Which match are we missing?
The TNT Championship.
Oh, I think I skipped right past that.
You did.
Let's go back to that because I don't know how that happened, but let's do that first. We had Cody with Arn Anderson versus Lance Archer and Jake Roberts, with of course Mike Tyson there to present this title. Let's talk before the match here, Karl, because this seems to be the really hotly debated thing this week on social media when it comes to professional wrestling this week, outside of some other things. This TNT Championship belt, people are not digging this. What's your take on just how it looks?
What I'm going to say is they have already come out and said that it is not finished and not complete. Due to COVID-19, the platers and the people that make the belt were not able to complete it. Shut your damn mouth. It's not your championship. It's not your company. It doesn't matter what you think. It's what they want and what they have made, and it is not complete. Shut your mouth.
There you go. I would agree for the most part. Having said that, too, I think if it was not complete, they should have just not shown it. Or maybe
you had to, because you've been building up for this. You've had a whole tournament for this. Yeah. Just because this stupid pandemic, whatever, has happened, doesn't mean at all that you have to cancel absolutely everything.
Sure.
You couldn't cancel this. It's a tournament for a freaking championship belt.
Yep. Just unfortunately, the timing, I guess, just didn't kind of work out. And I mean, I could see both sides of it, of needing to have something, but at the same time, showing an unfinished belt, especially when our first champion is being crowned. I believe that's the first time that I've ever seen that. I think that's a first.
It's the first time that I've ever seen that happen as well. But these are stupid, messed up times right now.
They are. Yeah.
You work with what you have. You work with what you've got. You work with what you can do, and this is what they could do. So,
yeah, for sure.
Everybody needs to take their judgment and just stick it straight up your rear. I mean, come on. Are you really that big on how a championship look? Like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
There's definitely
is that what your main focus is out of this entire thing, out of this entire card, where these people went out there and put on amazing matches for you, put their bodies on the line as they always freaking do, and you're all hung up on a stupid championship title belt? Get your head out of your freaking ass and enjoy the product that they're putting on, and stop worrying about stupid freaking championship belts.
There you go.
God.
I will say it's definitely better looking than the 24/7 championship. That I will say it looks a lot better. Now, I've definitely seen worse belts out there, folks. And
I definitely have as well.
And no, frankly, even if this is what what the finished product looks like, I don't think it's that bad. I mean, it's not the most beautiful belt out there, but it's at the end of the day, it really is kind of a prop here, folks, and when it comes down to it. So I think we all need to kind of calm down, and this people are kind of losing their minds over this. It's a little much, but I definitely understand Karl's opinion, and I do see the other side of it as well. That presenting an unfinished product, especially on such a big platform, I can definitely see where the negative opinions can kind of come from there. With that, now having said that, with the match itself here, Karl. Unpopular opinion possibly here, I think that they put the title on the wrong person. I think that because the theme of the show kind of here was kind of baby faces up here. It seems like all the good guys won. I think you needed to put the title on Archer here.
I would have to agree with that statement. I get it. Cody is like top part owners, whatever, of the company, and can't wrestle for the heavyweight championship now, but is now able to just work himself into winning a brand new championship. That was like, was this just brought in because Cody wants a title? Is that kind of what was happening here, or was this actually supposed to be something that was very genuine and supposed to actually be the mid-tier title? But like, I think honestly at this point it should not have gone on Cody Rhodes right away. If he wins it somewhere down the line, I would have been cool with that. But right now it's got a little bit of taint and tarnish on it because of that fact.
It feels like this is like a 10 chapter story, and we're on chapter 2, but we've already fast forwarded to the end. So to me, that's how this kind of feels. I think that to tell that proper, good guy overtaking the bad guy, I think you got to put that title, that championship, on the bad guy first, and then make the good guy work for it. To have the good one chasing the bad. I mean, that's just classic professional wrestling 101 storytelling there, and they decide to not go that way. I mean, there's so many different ways you can see this. I get the angle of where people thinking, it's the owners booking themselves to win championships. Although you could argue against a little bit with the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks haven't won jack squat. For the most part, it comes to championships and tournaments and whatnot. But everybody else, I definitely get the perspective of they're just saying, just the boys are just booking themselves to win.
Honestly, that's how it feels. That's how it seems to me. It really does. Had this been like, let's say, Colt Cabana in there with Lance Archer, and Colt Cabana won, I would be perfectly fine and happy with how that went. But the fact that it was Cody, the one who left the conglomerate, came and like took his ball and created his own matchup and created his own company and created his own thing, and has now created a new championship and is the one to carry that like, no, it should not have been done that way.
Yeah.
It's a classic case of like owners booking themselves. It's clear, you can see that. As much as I love Cody, don't get me wrong, like I'm a fan of Cody's.
Me too.
I'm a fan of you know, everything that Cody has done throughout his career since the very beginning. I've been a fan of it, but I'm not a fan of this type of booking.
Yep. Like I said, I think it feels like we've fast forwarded to the end of the story when we're only on the second chapter. And to me, it's like, well, now that you've already had the good guy beat the bad guy, where do you go from here? Right? I think we've jumped the gun on this storyline, and I think you could have really had a long-term thing there. And I think that they kind of blew it a little bit. They might prove me wrong, but I don't know where you go from that. Do you have... Are you going to rewind and then have him lose and then have him win back again? I don't know. It's just, I feel like they it almost feels like they forgot how to do a good guy versus bad guy thing. But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do. I think at this point, Archer is going to be working with somebody else at this point. There's going to be some of their program or some of their storyline, because like I said, I just don't know where you go from that. Okay, now going back to the last match for the card here. I think it's the first time I ever skipped a match when we've broken down a card here. So that's my fault.
And a high profile match at
right?
that.
Right? But at least that's why I have a co-host and one that pays attention, folks. So that makes it a lot easier to do this. So the last match for the night here, we had the Stadium Stampede match. So this was the Elite versus the Inner Circle. So with the Elite, we had Adam Page, Kenny Omega, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson, and Matt Hardy versus the Inner Circle, which of course is Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, Sammy Guevara, and Santana and Ortiz. This was about a 34-minute match here, Karl, and I got to say, you might be surprised by my opinion on this, but I thoroughly enjoyed this match. I was very, very entertained, and I got to say they did a really, really good job at capitalizing on being where they were at. They were at the Jacksonville Jaguars Stadium. They even made use of the cheerleaders and had them cheering and making comments during the match. They did this the right way, I think, Karl.
So... because this is the big discussion right now. I think that definitely it was fantastic. It was a great show to watch. Yeah. Better or equal to the Boneyard match?
Oh, this was far better than the Boneyard match in my opinion. Far better. I was entertained.
What made it that way? Because I'm seeing lots online where people are really for this Stadium Stampede match that happened. But then you've got people on the other side that are going, but it's exactly like what Taker and AJ Styles, like it's same concepts, same things, right? So where's the difference?
This felt a lot less serious. With the Boneyard match, it felt very, very dark, very, very dramatic, and this it felt like it was they went with the whole football kind of angle. They even had it was one of the Jackson brothers and Sammy. They basically suplexed from one end of the arena to the other. They went like 100 yards of just continuing a suplex. They did that spot. There was my favorite spot, my two favorite spots from the whole thing here was they were in the bar. Paige is sitting there, and then Jake comes in, and at one point, like he basically takes Paige and he just drags him across the whole bar from one end to the other, like Western style. That was fantastic. And then at one point in the match too, and this was for me the highlight. Paige comes out with the yard line marker, and Jericho's passed on the ground and just like rolls over top him. And just Paige's body language on that, it was physical comedy, perfectly timed. It was that kind of stuff. It was executed so well, and then they did so much good physical stuff in the match too. It was a perfect balance of the comedy aspects, the sport presentation, and then the actual wrestling. I think they hit all the marks on this here, Karl.
Well, there you have it, people. The word from Big Joe.
And I know those are people are probably pretty surprised because I'm very much a traditionalist and I typically don't go for these kind of matches. But I mean, these guys did such a good job on this. And like I said, that for me, that highlight was that Page rolling over Jericho, right over his balls, going right over his face with that yard line marker.
Right.
That was fantastic. And Page's body language as he's just kind of like waltzing away after off camera. They kept the camera there so that he could walk through and go across. It was just perfectly shot and well done. And
Yes.
I like the way that they did this. And they made use of all the stuff there. And yeah, I dug this, and I wasn't expecting to.
Yeah, they definitely made good use of absolutely everything
Yeah.
that they had possible. So
Yep, and the Elite getting the win there with I believe it was Kenny on Sammy. They did the one winged angel basically from the seats down into whatever it was there to kind of end off the match.
Yeah.
A bit of a scary spot there, and apparently I believe it was Matt. Or it may have been Nick that actually worked with a broken rib the entire match. So
Yes.
I'm not sure how much legitimacy there is to that. If that's a kayfabe injury, I can't really tell with the way both of them worked. I would kind of tend to side with a kayfabe injury, but knowing the Bucks, they work regardless. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a legitimate injury either, to be honest with you.
That's right. There you have it, people. That
Yeah.
was AEW's Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
Again, a fantastic showing from AEW. Very happy with what they've done. Kind of disappointed in a couple of things.
Yep.
But, I mean, we touched on all of that. If you're just tuning in now, we are live right now on Facebook. We are on our Facebook page at TB Talk Pod. People, share this out. This is something that we're going to look at probably doing a little bit more of, and you guys can even interact with us, which is fantastic while we're recording. We've already gone 41 minutes here, Big Joe. This took up a lot of time. So, what have we got next on the card?
Next up is a bit of a doozy here, Karl. We're talking Dark Side of the Ring. We had this, I believe it's the season 2 finale. I think that's the final episode for that.
Yes.
And we've covered a lot of these. I think we may have missed a couple of them, but this one's, they kind of bookend the season with two of the real doozies in the industry. We had the Chris Benoit deal at the beginning of the season, and then we have the Owen Hart story at the end here. This one, given that we're Canadian professional wrestling fans, and a lot of us connected pretty heavily with Owen on several different levels. This one was a bit of a tough watch here. I didn't feel like I learned anything kind of new with this, just because we already knew a good portion of what was going on. The interesting thing with this, though, was kind of some of the reaction for some other people that have watched this, and people being really critical of Martha, Owen's wife, for still holding a grudge. I mean, her husband died. I mean, did you expect her to just be kind of just cool with it now? Like,
Right.
I don't really understand that thought process. Oh, Martha's still really bitter. Her husband was killed, folks, literally, and kind of swept under the rug for the most part by the WWE. Would you say that's a pretty fair statement to make, Karl?
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's not just something that you shrug off and get over.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that definitely from now, I didn't know, that they had gone with a different company. See, that was something new to me that I learned during that broadcast. I thought that it was the exact same crew that had done all of them before. The only difference being that they had used a different clip this time. Instead of a Caribbean clip, a quick release. But I didn't know that it was a totally different company that had gone in there to do it. So that's something new that I learned coming out of that episode of Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah, and for me, just the biggest thing that I took away from this was, boy, when something happens like this in WWE, boy, do they ever go to so many lengths to kind of cover it up. And, it's a real dark side of this company. And we like to praise this company as much as we can when they do good things. But, boy, when they do bad, man, boy, do they look bad when they do it. And this is definitely ranks up there as one of the, the worst things that they've been guilty of. And I don't really want to speculate whether this was purposeful, whether it was an accident. We seriously don't know.
Yes.
I would say that it was likely an accident. Again, just a speculation on my end, but it's really, really hard to know. And again, with Martha still being bitter, of course she's going to be bitter. Her husband was killed, so people need to kind of get over that. Anybody that loses a loved one like that, and you're going to be upset. But she created the Owen Hart Foundation, which has actually done a lot of good. So at least that kind of came out of that, and you can see that like his kids too are still really, really having a hard time with this, and rightfully so.
That's right.
All right, man. So last topic before we have our match of the week here and before we do our Showstopper segment. We still have a fair amount to go here. This is something that we've tackled before, but I thought we would again because, I'm sure like yourself, I get to talk to a lot of people about wrestling fans. A lot of people ask me about a lot of terminology and a lot of words that tend to come up here. So that we kind of go through these quickly and, give some quick, simple kind of explanations for what these things are here. And the first one right off the top here, I picked 10 of the most common ones that I get asked most often. And the one right at the top is a work. What is a work, Karl?
Anything planned to happen.
Okay. And then on the other side, shoot.
A shoot is just like going real.
There you go, folks. Those are the two top ones. So basically something planned, something unplanned. And then taking a bump.
Taking a bump is just how you fall.
Yeah.
Or how you land, something like that. So when you see these guys like getting choke slammed or power bombed, and they hit the mat, that's the bump. That's taking a bump.
Yeah, I immediately think back to that YouTube video of the original Tough Enough and Triple H showing basically how to take a bump in the ring. I don't think in that video. Since then I don't think I've ever seen anybody take such a hard, fast bump as he did in that position. He's like, I'm going to take a bump. Boom. He's like, that's the difference between you and me.
Yeah,
taking that. So and then next up we have Mark. What's a mark?
A wrestling fan who enthusiastically believes or behaves as though they believe professional wrestling is not staged or loses sight of staged nature of the business while supporting their favorite professional wrestler.
There you go. Next up, we have angle. What's an angle?
Angle is just a how things are being, storylined. So an angle usually begins with like one wrestler attacking another one physically or verbally, which ends up in like revenge happening.
There you go. And then a couple easy ones here, but people still seem to be kind of uncertain, which is a little odd. We have babyface and heel, and that essentially is just we have good guy, bad guy. And then
babyface, good guy, heel, bad guy.
There you go. Then blow-off match. What's the blow-off match?
That one's I mean a little bit kind of harder to really explain. It's to end everything pretty much. Like so you have a feud that's going on and they've already had like 5 or 6 matches. Then you have the final one, the blow off match, the one that's going to end that feud.
Yep. Rubber match is also another one that's thrown out there, or to kind of to end it off, or however you want to word it. Curtain jerker.
Just the ones that are going out there first, essentially. Now that's not a pre-show though.
No.
That's on the actual main card. Usually the first, second, whatever, they're considered the curtain jerker.
There you go. And quite fittingly for the last one here, Karl, go home. What's go home?
Go home. Wrap it up.
Yep. That's essentially the referee telling the workers in the ring, time to go home. Let's go home. Let's wrap it up, folks.
Yep.
Which, just like the segment, that's it. So, that's a little explanation of some of the real kind of basic terms of professional wrestling that kind of give you a little bit of insight, a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, a little bit to how some of these matches and how some of the stuff kind of works.
Yeah.
So next up, before we do our Showstopper segment, Karl, let's do our Match of the Week segment. And given what we've already talked about, I'm pretty sure you can kind of guess what mine is, but I will let you go first this weekend. What was your Match of the Week for this past week?
Surprisingly, it is not coming from AEW.
Damn.
My Match of the Week is actually coming from NXT this past week with Roderick Strong versus Dexter Lumis. Now, Dexter Lumis creeps the bloody hell out of me and is doing his job perfectly. I love it. These two, it was just a fantastic match. The chemistry between the two of them, which is something that we haven't really seen in NXT a lot lately. These two really went at it and just put together such a phenomenal, good matchup that I was like super impressed and happy. So there it is, people. If you haven't seen it, go and find Roderick Strong versus Dexter Lumis from this past week's NXT. That's my match of the week.
There you go. Now, mine, I will give a first pick, and I will pick one that is actually a runner-up as well. That's kind of a notable mention. But my match of the week is actually coming from AEW Double or Nothing, and it is the Stadium Stampede match between the Elite and the Inner Circle. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. They had a really nice balance of the sports presentation and some comedic aspects, and just some good high-octane professional wrestling. I thought that they didn't do too much, they didn't do too little. They hit a really nice kind of medium there, and just it was a good way to do an entertainment style professional wrestling match, if that makes sense. You know, with WWE, they tend to see them kind of drop the ball or go a little too hokey. I think doing this in a football arena, and even having like the cheerleaders, and even having the Inner Circle guys wearing the football uniforms and whatnot, just I really like the way that they went about this. And I was wondering how this was going to kind of come off, and I think that having, you know, the owners of the Jacksonville Jaguars involved and everything, like I think that whole angle that helped. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. And my runner up here is another match I enjoyed this week, and this is actually going to come from Ring of Honor, and this was a they've been kind of showing a lot of their archives lately, and this is actually coming from the 2017 War of the Worlds tour that they did, and this was a matchup between Shinsuke Nakamura versus Mark Briscoe versus Jushin Thunder Liger versus Jay Lethal. Wow, Karl. This was a fantastic match, went about 13 minutes or so, and just some real marquee names that are just button heads. I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. And again, I got to give props to Ring of Honor for doing these flashback matches in their entirety on YouTube. It's been great to kind of go back and experience this stuff again.
So this is something that you had seen on their actual YouTube page. This isn't from
Correct.
The actual programming that they had. Is
Correct.
That correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I haven't been able to watch Ring of Honor's program from this past week as of yet. I do have it recorded, but I don't know who they're showcasing in this or last week's broadcast. So I've been very happy with all of that. So I'm glad that you kind of brought that up as a another pick for you for your match of the week. Very happy with that, and everything that Ring of Honor has done throughout this entire situation that's happening. I'm super happy with it all. So.
Yep. And another one too that was excellent too was the Briscoes versus Shinsuke Nakamura and Kazuchika Okada. That was another one too that was really kind of good. So make sure and check that one out as well, folks, if you like some Ring of Honor. And you get to see a mixture of some current WWE guys, some New Japan guys, some Ring of Honor guys, some really good stuff there worth checking out.
Yeah,
all right.
Definitely.
So we're going to take a brief break here, Karl, and we're going to come back with our Showstopper segment, and we're going to talk a little bit of AEW and whether people are being too critical of it or not. So we'll be right back. This week's episode is brought to you by Collar and Elbow. Visit collarandelbowbrand.com where you can get 15% off when using promo code JKPodcast at the checkout, including this week's featured item, the Good Brothers Dojo t-shirt. All right, guys, Big Joe and Karl Karufel back here on Turnbuckle Talk.
Yes, we are, guys, and we are at that favorite point of the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Showstopper segment. Big Joe, what do we got today?
Yeah, man, we got an interesting one here that our fans and journalists and pundits and just people in general involved in wrestling, are they being too critical of AEW? And especially given that this company is literally just over a year old, or somewhere kind of along that line. I think that especially people who are very, very, very pro WWE are just crapping on AEW for the sake of crapping on it. That's about the best way I can kind of put it.
I agree and I don't agree.
Yeah. Because it feels like people are being unnecessary, like they're being really unfair and not rightfully so. This isn't like during the Monday Night Wars when we had WWE versus WCW. WCW had already been really established, and a lot of the kind of back and forth wasn't necessarily like a hate on for the other two companies, and that feels like that's the big difference right now between WWE and AEW. Is it's not fans just having kind of good back and forth discussions; it's real hate on either side.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I definitely do. I don't think that it's just necessarily towards AEW though. I think that honestly fans and broadcasts and journalists and all of this are being very critical of the entire world of professional wrestling, whether it is AEW, whether it's Ring of Honor, whether it's New Japan, whether it is WWE. I think that everybody is just being very critical of all of it. And it's very unfortunate because I mean, there was a time, and I understand that, that was called kayfabe and that kayfabe is dead. I get it. But still, suspend your disbelief just for a little bit. How many people have watched the Harry Potter series and suspended their disbelief? How many people have seen all of the different Avenger movies and suspended their disbelief? Lord of the Rings, another classic series, but you suspended your disbelief for a while. You need to just get back to that. Stop being so critical of the product that anyone is putting out and just enjoy it. Just suspend your disbelief for a little bit of time. Let your cares melt away and just enjoy.
Yep, I definitely see your approach, and I do, get the other side of the coin at the same time too. Me, I'm kind of more of the type of person that when I see something that is obviously mediocre, not up to the par that it should be, I will address that. I will call them out on that. When clearly it's either you're not trying or you're just maybe not necessarily putting out a bad product on purpose. But that's kind of been my main beef with WWE is it feels, and I think a good way to kind of describe it, and people may disagree with me or not, that there's a picture, this is pre-COVID-19, mind you, there's a picture of a person in the crowd. I believe it was at a Monday Night Raw show holding up a sign going, "It feels like you're not even trying anymore." That's how I kind of feel about the current WWE product. Given the AEW product, I enjoy a lot of what they do, but they make some mistakes at the same time too. That's one thing with this whole situation kind of going on is we've really seen these companies handle things a lot differently. We have New Japan Pro Wrestling, who, not surprisingly, has just stopped because it would be counterproductive to them because they're a company that really thrives off the live show with people there in attendance. We've seen WWE go with the empty arena shows with nobody else out there but the talent, the people involved. With AEW, it's kind of a mixture of the two. We have the empty arena, but we still have people there to make it so that it's not like just dead air. We still have kind of some activity, and that's one thing that really helped this Double or Nothing show that happened this week as well. That wouldn't have felt as good or the same if it would have just been an empty arena with nobody else there but the people working the match. So we've seen different companies handle things different ways, and I think right now too, I think a big reason why people are being so critical too is that a lot of people, Karl, they just have nothing better to do right now.
You know what? I think you're right. I mean, to a point. Yes, I think you're right. Because this is
Definitely
something that's been going on for a long while now. This isn't just something new because of the COVID-19 pandemic that's happening.
Yeah.
No, this is something that has been going on for a while where a lot of people are very much so critical of the products, no matter what the product is, unfortunately. I mean, everybody has their down points. I mean, the McLobster. What?
That's something new. I've never heard of that.
You've never heard of the McLobster?
That's something new.
Oh, dude. Like, it was...
Oh, no, I know what you're talking about now. I was thinking inside of a pro wrestling context. You're talking about the lobster sandwich. That was awful. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was bad.
Right?
That's something that is clearly bad and should be called out for. So, that is that's to McDonald's of what pouring wet dog food on Roman Reigns is to WWE. That's the equivalent of that in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you, and that's one thing too that's there's a lot of negativity going on in professional wrestling as well, and I don't really want to kind of give it into that whole aspect because I mean there's kind of some sad news out there that it's something that I want to kind of address, but kind of address carefully because I do have an opinion that might be kind of unpopular, but it's something that we should address. In this past week, that it's been a rough week when it comes to people passing away in wrestling. Karl, it's been a tough week.
Yeah, it definitely has been.
Yeah.
We don't need to get into what happened or situations running behind all of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, all I'm going to say about this is that we had one in Shad who, okay, like amazing person, amazing guy. Really, everyone's classifying him as a hero now. He's really gone out as a hero.
Yep.
On the other side of things, no matter what happened or how things happened, it doesn't matter. But this is a classic showing of a 22-year-old Hannah with Stardom and on actually a Netflix series. She is gone. She's not with us any longer. 22 years old. I would definitely say a victim of very belligerent cyberbullying. I guess is maybe the best way that we can put that. Circumstances behind or how everything happened, we don't need to get into because that's not what we want to do here. We don't care. What we care about is that two amazing people in the world of professional wrestling are no longer with us. So we offer our thoughts to all of the families that are involved.
The more kind of minute details and whatnot on both of these. I will address this aspect of it here, Karl. This kind of stuff I think should stay a lot more in like private conversations, not airing out in dirty laundry like on open forums on Facebook and whatnot. If you really want to delve in and give your actual opinions, keep it private, with messages or just talking to people in person. Getting the stuff all out in the open, I mean, you're always going to have people that are going to be on one side or the other, and they're in the middle. Not everybody's going to agree on anything like this. So I know it's tough to kind of resist giving opinions and talking about this stuff, but a lot of the stuff has to stay private and however you feel about it, it shouldn't be like this because it's getting really nasty out there, Karl, and people hopping on the bandwagon and not really knowing the details as well. That's something that happens a lot, so it's unfortunate. I will say with Shad, I don't think I've seen such an outpouring from the industry, regardless of what company. I mean, this guy was obviously somebody that was liked by a lot of people. And
yeah.
So I mean that was really, really nice to see, and for him to go the way that he did, I mean, just it's really unfortunate. But like you said, a hero at the same time. So and yeah, it was a rough week when it comes to that aspect of it here. But we did have, in my opinion, a pretty good show with the AEW this week that I will say I enjoyed for the most part.
Definitely, we did. I do want to say, because we're talking about Shad and how. Shad Gaspar, who is being seen as a hero of sorts right now, and I do want to mention that even no matter how things happened with Hannah Kimura, she's really being seen as a hero as well, and really is being kind of used as a voice now for this cyberbullying that's happened, because we've seen wrestling stars from all companies. Not just over in Japan, but from Ring of Honor, from WWE, from AEW, from every single company putting out the plea that this stuff should never have happened because of this. And we need to just stop the hate and just get back to love. Like that's, the best way that we can put that. So we're not glorifying what happened, but we're unfortunately now having again to really put a focus on this bullying that really is out there. And as terrible as all of this has been, I am very thankful that we still have professional wrestling out there. So I want to say thank you to AEW, thank you to WWE, thank you to Ring of Honor, thank you to MLW, thank you to OVW, thank you to our friends over at Ignite Wrestling and Miss Kim. Thank you. Even Kim Artlip over at Ignite Wrestling has been putting out content on their YouTube channel from past shows that have been done, and she's doing a fantastic job with that. So thank you to any company that is putting out professional wrestling, including our friends at the Canadian Wrestling's Elite, who, if you go to our social media pages at TB Talk Pod, you will be able to see on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter that CWE is putting on another live show event over Facebook for everyone with some incentives this time. If you donate anything under $25 before the show happens, you will get a shout out on the show.
Yes.
$25 or more, you're going to get a signed 8x10 poster shipped to you for free. That's including the shipping plus the shout out. $50 or more, you're going to get a physical DVD copy. You're going to get the poster and a shout out. $75 or more, you're going to get the DVD. You're going to get the poster. You're going to get the shout out. And you will get a personal phone call from one of the CWE stars of your choice. I do believe that is your choice of ones that are included on the broadcast. But I mean, like, go out and support independent professional wrestling. And this is a great way for you to do that. And CWE has put out some really good Patreon type of rewards for those that are going to go through and support them. So I'm super happy about that. Good stuff. Happy stuff with pro wrestling.
Yeah, that was very cool to hear about all that. And recently on the Andy Martin show, you, your wife Leah, and Andy got to talk to Danny about kind of all that's going on with CWE. That was very cool. Enjoyed that. Make sure you go and check that out. And hopefully, if all kind of goes well, that this rescheduled tour coming up, I believe it's November 8th and November 9th, that CWE is going to be in Sault Ste. Marie, and hopefully that show will happen. And hopefully I'll be able to make my way up there as well, to see you guys, to see Danny and everybody. So I'm hoping that I can make that trip up, and I hope that show happens, because I'm getting a little anxious to see some professional wrestling in person again. So it's been long enough now. I need to kind of get my fill. So
yeah, me too. Definitely follow our social media pages, because I do post stuff from Canadian Wrestling's Elite. We have done our best to support them, and they have supported us. And it has been a fantastic partnership that we have together for this podcast and for the world of professional wrestling. So yeah, I mean, Danny, thank you very much for everything that you've been doing with CWE and continuing to give us some product. And if you're following our social media, you will see the show from Sault Ste. Marie that has been already set and booked and put into place, again, going back to Sue Blaster.
There we go. All right, man. Well, I guess it's a pretty good way to wrap things up here. So we will see you on the next one.
Have a nice day.
It's me. It's an honor to be the beat. As you can tell in the background, we are out celebrating. That is what we do here at hittingthemarks.com. And I invite everyone to continue to tune in to Turnbuckle Talk, but check out all of our other shows we have. You can find that all at hittingthemarks.com.
Run.